My friends, welcome to this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review. I hope you all are doing well. What I have here is the LiteFighter FIDO all-in two-person tent. This is LiteFighter's civilian version of their military tent. The tent itself is almost identical to the military version. The only real difference is that this is made overseas, whereas the military version is made in the United States. This is through and through a military product. But get this, it features more of a civilian backpacking tent design, and it has truly some unique features. Features that make this one of the most advanced, versatile tents out on the market today. With this kit, you receive the tent inner, which is covered in mesh. It has a bathtub floor. You also receive the cold weather kit, which is called the windbreaker. It converts this 3-season tent into a 4th season tent, meaning that you can use this in the wintertime. Then of course you have the fly, tent stakes, ground sheet, poles, and so on. This one kit provides you with a tent that you can use literally all year round. You can use it in the summertime because the ventilation is excellent. You can use it in the wintertime because this tent can handle snow loading. It will hold in heat. It will block the wind. It does everything that you want this tent to do in the winter. That is what makes this tent so exceptional. There are very few tents out on the market today that can be converted from a 3-season tent to a 4th season tent and back. This one can, and it can be done so at a reasonable price. Over the years, I have tested out and reviewed the LiteFighter one-person tent, the cold weather kit called the windbreaker, and then it dawned on me. I did a preview of this tent, but I have not put up my review, even though I have tested this out for many years now. That changes today. Please know this is a review of this tent here. I'm not going to go over every single detail. I am focusing primarily on the pros and cons. If you have a question about this tent that's not answered in this episode, check out my preview. In the preview episode that I filmed and put up, I go over every single detail, every component that's included. I show you the inside, the outside of the tent, and so on. With that being said, let's talk about the company LiteFighter for a minute. This is a company based in the United States, and they are a military contractor for the US government. And they make a wide range of products, from military tents to deployment bags and so on. Now everyone, let's talk about what FIDO means. Basically, this is a play on words. You may be familiar with the old military pup tent. This is an evolution of that system called the FIDO. Again, it's a play on words sort of thing. Now I tell you what everyone, before we jump to the review portion of this episode, let me show you all this tent in some detail so you understand exactly what I'm talking about as I go through this. The first thing that I'm going to do is to roll back the door so you can see the inside of the tent. With the fly out of the way, I want you all to focus here on this fabric layer. Basically, this goes over the top of the tent inner. This is the cold weather kit, also known as the windbreaker. To put this on, it's a very simple process. You lay down the tent, you lay this on top, you take the pole clips, you go through, and basically you attach the inner to the poles with this on top of it. Then you would put the fly on. The purpose of this is to block the wind. At the same time, it holds in heat. Essentially, this covers all of the mesh that's on the tent inner. With the cold weather kit out of the way, you can see the tent inner. We have a bathtub floor, we have the door here, and we have a ton of mesh. And let me tell you all this, as far as a 3-season tent goes, it is excellent. Then as it gets colder, you put on the cold weather kit and you use it in the wintertime. That is what makes this system so special. That is a very quick overview of the FIDO 2-person tent. Again, if you want more information, check out my preview and also the review of the 1-person. Also, the review of the cold weather kit. Do know this, folks, when it comes to the FIDO, there are 4 versions of this tent. There's a 1-person, a 2-person, and there's also the FIDO AI 1 and the FIDO AI 2. The AI stands for All In. The All In kit includes every optional add-on for this tent. We're talking about the ground sheet, we're talking about the cold weather kit, snow anchors, and the storage bag. You do not have to buy the entire kit if you don't want to. You can go out and purchase the components that you want. If you want the ground sheet, you can purchase that too. If you want the cold weather kit, you can purchase that separately as well. Now everyone, let's talk about price. The FIDO 1-person is $368. The FIDO 2-person, $471. The FIDO All-In 1-person, $472. The FIDO All-In 2-person tent, $605. The trail weight for this tent, which includes the tent inner, the fly, the tent stakes, that is 5.9 pounds. The entire all-in kit, the two-person, that comes in at 9.9 pounds. Speaking of the entire kit, when it's inside of the tough sack, yes, that's what they call it, it measures 19 inches by 8 inches. And that tough sack is made from a 500 denier multi-cam nylon. The tent inner is made from a 70 denier ripstop nylon. The fly is made from a 30 denier ripstop nylon. The cold weather kit is made from a 30 denier water resistant nylon. And of course we have aluminum tent stakes and poles. There is something else that we should talk about before jumping to the pros of this tent. Let's talk about the dimensions. Without a doubt, this tent is wide enough for 2 people, 2 sleeping pads, and so on. With this shelter here, it is 52 inches wide, which is 4 feet 4 inches. It has a peak height of 40 inches, which is 3 feet 4 inches tall. And then when it comes to length, this is where the tent falls a little bit short, so to speak. This tent is roughly 6 feet long. Now, technically, from edge to edge, it's longer, but that's not usable space. Talking about usable space, this tent is 72 inches long, which is 6 feet. The military version of this tent is made for utility, it's not made for comfort, and that shines through with the civilian version as well. And I do feel like this is an area where the company has fallen short as far as the design goes. There's also another issue, which I will talk about in a second. If you're 6 foot and under, you'll be fine. If you're 6 foot and over, you're going to have some issues. Either your head will touch a wall, or your feet, or even both. Of course, you can sleep diagonally, but that turns this into a one-person tent. Again, this is based upon the military design. The military tent is designed for utility. It's not designed for comfort. So it didn't really matter whether or not if the soldier inside was fitting comfortably. That's an issue with this tent here, because this is the civilian version of the military tent. Unfortunately, they stuck to the same design, the exact same measurements, and they shouldn't have done that. They should have made this larger. And yes, everybody, that is a con for this tent. So keep that in mind. For now, let's talk about the positives concerning this shelter. Right off the bat, this tent features one of the best bangs for the buck of any tent system out on the market today. What this tent can do, others cannot do. Very few tents out on the market allow you to convert the shelter from a 3-season to a 4th season. There are a few. Heelerberg has a few, but we're talking about tents that cost over $1,000 or around $1,000. This does not cost $1,000. With the FIDO kit, you get everything that you need to use one tent system all year round, and that is impressive. For $605, there is absolutely nothing out on the market today that's like this. Standing alone, you have an awesome 3-season tent that you can use in the summertime. You add the cold weather kit, and you can easily use this in the winter. That is a ton of versatility for a fair price. Talking about the cold weather kit, which again is known as the windbreaker, it is exceptional and it works extremely well. In fact, that is one of the greatest advancements in outdoor technology that I've seen in the last 10 years. It is so incredibly smart, and it blows my mind that other tent companies have not copied it yet. There are a few. There is a couple Chinese companies who have, but as far as American companies go, so far, no one. The cold weather kit converts this to a 4th season tent, and it does everything that you would want your 4th season tent to do. You want it to block the cold wind. You want it to hold in some heat. It does all of that. At the same time, it allows moisture to move through the material, so you don't have to worry about condensation as much. Then everyone, when it begins to warm up, you take off the cold weather kit, you rock the tent by itself with just the inner and the fly, and you're good to go. As far as waterproofing goes for this shelter, it has been top notch. I've never had this tent to leak, and we're talking about knockdown thunderstorms. We're talking about ice storms. We're talking about snowstorms. This tent is without a doubt waterproof, and again, I've never had an issue. Speaking of using this tent in the winter, it handles all of that with ease. We're talking about snow loading, and we're talking about strong winds. With the one-person version, I had that tent out in winds at 40 miles an hour, no issue. With the 2-person version here, winds at 30, 35 miles an hour, again with no issue. Once you stake this out, once you guy it out, it is rock solid. And again, it handles snow loading exceptionally well. That takes us over to the next pro that I have concerning this tent. The quality here is excellent. And that does not surprise me at all. LiteFighter makes very good products. The stitch work is excellent. The seam tape is excellent. There's no loose threads, nothing like that. Everything about this tent looks very, very good. Setting up the tent is an easy process. The tent by itself, you can have this set up in about 10 minutes. Add the cold weather kit, that adds an additional 5 minutes. So for the entire kit, you can easily set this up in around 15 minutes. Next, everyone, we have to talk about the way that this tent looks. I like the camo pattern, I like the colors. In my opinion, it looks sharp. This doesn't look like a kid's playhouse like so many tents do today. It has a cool factor to it that other tents do not have. As far as the tent inner goes, it does a fantastic job of keeping the bugs out. It is 100% secure. When it comes to the door, overall, this is a good size hole to get into and out of. You do have to keep in mind that this is not the longest tent out there, meaning that the door here is not the biggest. I personally have had no issues getting in and out of this, and I do have some issues with my back, but overall, getting into and out of this, it's not bad at all. Talking about the weight of this tent, all in all, it's not bad. The trail weight, a little bit less than 6 pounds for a 3+ season tent, that's not bad. For a 4th season tent, a wintertime tent in other words, we're looking at a tent that's around 10 pounds. That's pretty heavy. It's not in the realm of impossibility as far as carrying it goes, but it's still heavy. Without a doubt, you can go out looking for a 4-season tent that's 2 persons, that's even larger than this one here, that's also lighter weight than this one here. This was not designed to be lightweight at all. Again, folks, you have to keep in mind, this is based upon a military design. Basically, this is a military tent. The only exception is that it's made overseas. Not in China, but overseas. I don't quite remember where. Maybe Vietnam or something. Anyways, that is the only difference when it comes to this tent versus the military one. The only meaningful difference, anyways. And with all of that being said, let's go over to the cons. The first con is weight. Yes, it's not bad for what you're getting with this system for what this tent is. But let's say that you're interested in a 3-season backpacking tent. You can find tents that are much lighter weight than this, that are also bigger. You can also find 4-season tents that are lighter weight and bigger. They're going to cost a whole lot more, of course. With that being said, this is a heavy tent through and through. Again, it's not designed to be ultralight, so I added this to the con section just for the fact that you need to realize what you're getting with this shelter. This is a military tent that has been reworked to be sold as a civilian tent. The next con that I have for you all deals with the storage size, the stuff sack with every single component inside of it. It will take up a substantial amount of space inside of your backpack. It is quite large. The next con that I have for this system here is the inappropriate amount of tent stakes that are included with this shelter. If you purchase this kit, you receive 6 tent stakes, which is enough to stake out the body, 1 stake in each corner, and 1 stake for this door and 1 stake for that door. That's it. You do not receive enough tent stakes to stake out the guy lines, which is a big fail in my opinion. There's no reason why this tent should not include at least 4 more tent stakes, especially at this price. Next, everybody, we have an issue with this tent that LiteFighter needs to address. You can see here at the head or the foot, depending on which way you're inside of this, but basically on this side of the tent and on the adjacent side, this panel, the part of the fly here, does not pull away from the inner, meaning airflow is reduced because it does not pull away from the body. At the same time, because airflow is limited, you can get some condensation to form on the back side of the fly, which comes into contact with the tent inner. If you were able to stake out this side of the tent, airflow would be increased dramatically. Condensation would be reduced dramatically. This is something that the company needs to address ASAP. There's no reason why in 2025 that we should have tent designs like this. This is part of an old school design where people didn't even worry about condensation that much. But now we're talking about 2025. There have been a ton of advancements as far as tents go, their designs and whatnot. There's no excuse for this. The fact that you do not have that feature there, you do not have that ability to pull this out and to stake it out, it does cause some problems. And the problems that I'm talking about are condensation and a lack of airflow. If you are over 6 foot and you're pushing the limits of this tent and how long it is, you will push the inside of the tent, the inner, against the backside of the fly, which makes the condensation issues even worse. That is why the company needs to make this tent longer, and they need to add the ability to stake out the fly, to pull it away from the inner. With that being said though, those are the cons that I have for this tent. All in all, this is an amazing shelter, but it does have some issues. And it really is up to you whether or not these issues are deal breakers. For myself, they're not. But if you're over 6 foot tall, they could be. Do you want to sleep inside of this tent diagonally? If you're not, you simply need to find something else. What LiteFighter has with this tent is amazing in many, many ways, but there are some shortcomings which can be corrected, which should be corrected. In the end, I think this is one of the most impressive tents that I've seen in a long time. The way that you can convert this from a 3-season tent to a 4th-season tent and back, it's ingenious. This needs to be licensed to other companies because it's so smart. I, for one, rather have one tent that I can use year-round instead of having to purchase 2 tents. That's exactly the reason why this idea, this sort of setup, may never take off. Why would a company want to sell you just 1 tent instead of 2? That is what makes this tent so special. That is what makes this tent so unique. The 1-person version of this tent is one of my most favorite tents of all time, and I can easily say the same for the 2-person version. This is an excellent tent that could be made better. But as it stands on its own, in my opinion, this is a major go, as long as you can get it to work for you. It all depends on how tall that you are. And that, my friends, wraps up this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review. Ultimately, the LiteFighter FIDO 2-person tent is an excellent system. And with all of that being said, I am done. Comment down below, share your thoughts. What do you all think about the FIDO series of tents? What do you all think about the way that you can convert this from a 3-season tent to a 4th-season tent? It is super, super smart. Again, everyone, if you have any questions that were not answered in this episode, check out the preview, check out the review of the 1-person, and also my review of the cold weather kit. Folks, take care. Be well. Oh, hit the thumbs up before you go if you found this episode helpful. Strength and honor. Bye for now.